All right. Obviously, we kind of had a little change in plans just because no school this week. We need to give our players a day off. So I flipped Sunday from Monday, gave our guys Sunday to kind of take a deep breath. Our coaches obviously worked our way through it. Got through the game, tough day to work through, but as always, you learn more in the moments of adversity than moments of success. So I think a good learning moment for our coaches. Brought our players over this morning because we don't have classes. They were able to bring them over twice today. So we met in the morning. This morning they're wrapping it up now, or just finished up wrapping the offense, defense, special teams up. Give them this afternoon, and we'll come back this evening and get a little bit of a jump into Northwestern more than we normally would. Normally we don't meet on Monday. So from an injury standpoint, came out of it actually pretty clean. Dylan Rosiak, I think we'll be able to go by the weekend. Mildly tweaked that hammy again, but shouldn't be an issue. And then all the guys that were a little bit banged up during the game, everybody checked out negative and should be able to be with us on Saturday. So a little bit of a unique preparation week, just with no school, right? It's a different challenge, but it's kind of cool too to engage our guys a little bit more by that rule, by the NCAA rule. So should be able to have good preparation. Obviously going to have some weather challenges at the end of the week, and looks like Saturday is going to be a unique weather preparation game. So some things that we got to take into account for that. It's our 12th guaranteed opportunity. We knew when the season started, going back to last January, that it's going to be our last regular season game, and to be a 7-4 football team that has a lot to play for and some really good opportunities in front of us. But the biggest one is on Saturday to honor a group of seniors that have been absolutely awesome for us, guys that are in their 5th year, some 6th-year guys, guys that joined us this year, guys that have joined us last year, guys that have been with us their entire career. It's kind of a unique time in college football, but to honor all these guys in their last college football game, I'm not oblivious either that the world of college football, the way we have it, there'll be guys that probably come in over the next 4 or 5 months or 4 or 5 weeks leading into the transfer portal that won't be with us, that unforeseen or foreseen by us, doesn't really matter. It's going to be guys playing their last opportunity in Memorial Stadium. So we'll honor that with a senior day. I know we got a 6:30 kick. I would tell everybody to maybe bring their mittens, bring their hats. Snow removal should be taken care of. You can ask Josh that question, but if there is snow, we'll take care of that. And it should be an awesome environment. Thanksgiving celebration on Thursday. We'll celebrate with our team here in the stadium as well. We kind of have a set routine, completely different. Prior to me coming here, I did look at the schedule, 5 years ago when I took over, about how teams handled this week. The Big Ten, I've been in this league long enough to know that we used to be done before Thanksgiving. So this has kind of been an evolution. I first went through it as an assistant, playing the games past Thanksgiving, which brought a new challenge. The Big Ten actually kind of had a little recruiting niche that they said would always be done before Thanksgiving, so parents could have that time with their players. But now the Big Ten joined with the rest of everybody else, and now we even have the added nuance of a night game. It'll be the first night game in Geese Memorial Stadium, which is absolutely awesome for us to be a part of that history again. So a lot of really good things to work through, but nothing better than the last opportunity together. So with that, open up for questions.
Obviously, Northwestern's playing pretty well, coming off a good win, probably feeling good about themselves. What's the key for you guys to flush a loss and to prepare for what they're going to bring?
Yeah, this game is all about your response. So, within this year, I even kind of told our guys this morning, right? Like, it's kind of been the year of the responses. Obviously, the loss at Indiana was one that everybody was worried about how we were going to respond. It would be the USC team with a walk-off field goal, turnovers inside the 5. I like their response there. Obviously, to have the setback of the Washington game and to have our guys come back and bounce back against Maryland and Rutgers was positive. So very disappointing loss on Saturday. A lot of disappointed faces, as there should be. On Saturday night flying home, and then even in the building today, I would say walking into my team meeting this morning, I, as a head coach, always kind of count on our players to bring me back a little bit. Young people are always a lot more resilient, but there was definitely still a mood in their face today. But I really encouraged and set the day up for this reason. We wanted to watch Northwestern, learn from it, and then flush it. And tonight will be all about, flush Wisconsin, and this afternoon will be all about Northwestern moving forward.
What's allowed this team to maybe have the response you've been looking for after?
I'll go back to, you guys follow recruiting. I really believe, I have a little saying I throw all the time, right? You recruit your own problems. And I think a lot of people just naturally gravitate towards, kids that are academically issues, kids that are social issues. But I also just go back to, I don't know how much you can change a kid. There's always going to be a varying degree of who they are and what they are coming in the door, but I think you can really change maybe how they view the world during moments like this, right? Like, rather than just there's a lot of I talk to our staff and our players, like when in the world we're living in, it's such a now world, right? It's such a they want results now, which is a whole other conversation, but also just anytime there's an event, everybody has to have a reaction. And you know, I get it. I understand the world we're living in, but the reaction to it is really probably more extreme in the media and the social media because it gets reactions, right? It's not the reality of where we're at. The reality is we lost a football game against an unranked team, which obviously infuriates me and puts me in a position. If anybody knows that environment, being there for 9 years of my life and what that means and what it could have meant, is very hard for me to deal with. But on the flip side, I do know that I can't let that affect my preparation for Northwestern. So I think our kids really wire into that. I do think they were emotional. I even saw some of you guys asking questions. I know Miles got a question about a defense, and he goes, I can't answer that. And I think he's just being honest. Sometimes you got to sit back and digest what the problem was. I thought I had a clip of Luke. Somebody asked Luke, you know, about the game, and he goes, really, it's Wisconsin played really good. We didn't play good, and you have some you know, mental errors, turnovers, and penalties that, you know, cause that situation to arise. And here's a quarterback that I've been with for 3 years. He reminded me again of why that game happened. Like I understand that it happened. I understand there's a lot that went into it, but sometimes it can be as simplistic as what's in front of you, and you got to be able to realize that.
Was there anything in watching film of that game that jumped out at you as concerning that you didn't maybe see Saturday Night Live?
No, just a, you know, a bunch, like the offense, defense, special teams. I would say they checked the box in every category. 1 all 3. They played complementary football really well. But I can't lose sight that, you know, my right tackle Melvin Priestley got very frustrated. I didn't like the way he ended the game, but he really played pretty good. And you know, there were guys that played some good football. Gabe Ackus had a really good game. I can't lose sight of Matt Bailey, played really well. You know, I think there was guys in certain positions, you know, like today, we always start with special teams, then we break into offense, defense, right? So the first special teams play that we looked at other than the field goals and the PATs was a punt, right? And we executed a pooch punt that landed on the 4-yard line. We had 2 guys standing there, and the ball goes in the end zone. So their first drive could have started backed up on the 4-yard line. And, you know, in college football, any football, when you start the ball inside the 20-yard line, you have a 1 in 30 chance of scoring. As soon as you start the ball on the other side of the 20, you know, that drops down into 1 to 8, right? Like, those are odds that I would like to have the ball on the 4-yard line, right? Like, it is what it is. On the flip side of it, right, like 2 weeks prior to that, we had an opening drive by our offense that literally left the 1-yard line and ended up in a touchdown. We had a defensive drive that ended up starting on the -4, ended up on a 4 and out inside the goal line on -5 and created 0 points. Those were both big drives in those games. Those same scenarios this week worked in the exact opposite way. So we didn't do the things that we have done to execute to win, and when you don't do those, I don't care who you're playing, you know, that happens. I know there's been a lot of commentary around college football about a 9-game season. Obviously, we elected to do that in the Big Ten Conference, and I think, you know, this weekend going into it, you look at us, we were a top 25 team that got knocked off by a non-ranked team because they're playing really well and they executed when they needed to, and we didn't. That's what makes the Big Ten Conference what it is right now, and I think that's the challenge that all of us have in this league.
Right, when you rewatch the Wisconsin game, specifically with your run game, like what stands out to you? And is it a situation where maybe in the second half, before it became a 100% throw game, you were having maybe more success with adjustments you had made going into half?
Well, twofold. I think we always divide the game into halves, right?
Right.
And, without a doubt, Barry and the offensive staff, you know, I think in the first half, we tried to run the ball, weren't doing it. Luke did have some success throwing it, but we weren't able to capitalize it into points. I know when we scored our first touchdown, we went up, we were up 7-6, field in control. And then obviously the end of half, really the 3 points that the defense gave up, I think they converted 1 first down and then they had kicked a long field goal. So you really couldn't say that that's a defense thing. They actually rose up and played very well. So to come out of the game at half, 10-7, we hadn't played well. Felt really good about making some halftime adjustments and letting it play out as best as humanly possible. We'd make a stop on defense right away. We just weren't able to convert to some offensive points. And yeah, I think if anything, we'd retroactively look back and say, hey, maybe we should have stuck to, maybe not to you know, our average third down drive start was 3.8 or third and 8 plus. That's complete opposite last several weeks we were in the 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5 range, and then you throw in some quattros where we're knowing we're going for it on 4 downs. You just converted at a whole different level. So yeah, unfortunately weren't able to convert the run game as well as we would. Made a big point this morning in my team meeting. Like, if you look at it overall, the part that I always keep going back to is good football teams do 3 things: they run the ball, defend the run, and cover kicks, and that was a big part of our game.
Your boss played in this game, this rivalry. I think his last game was in this rivalry. What's it come to mean to you after 5 years?
Yeah, I think literally, I remember that when I first got in here, it was just a streak that was against Illinois. Somebody that I care deeply for showed me the clips of some Illinois players being very disrespectful to Northwestern. I think when I came in the league, Fitz and I had a very long relationship. I think it's no surprise. My first head coaching job, I offered Fitz the defense coordinator job, right? And he turned me down to stay as the linebacker coach at Northwestern because he loved Northwestern, and he later, because of randomness of life, right, when Coach Walker passed, he became the head coach, right, without ever becoming the coordinator. And then he turned that place into what he did, and then so I was taking over with Fitz in the helm, and I had a huge amount of respect for Fitz, and I just said, hey, before we can beat him, you got to respect him, right? Like, they were being very disrespectful, some of the Illinois comments going back, right? And
Sure.
Literally flipped that first one, right? And then kind of the way this thing's playing out, very hard-fought games. I got David and I, he's a defensive guy, so there's not very few of us head coaches that are defensive minds. So when he came in the league, I just had an automatic identity with him. I think he's a really good coach. I think he handles it very, very well. They're bowl eligible 2 times in his first 3 years, which isn't an easy thing to do. So I think it's for a trophy game. We make a big deal about that. It's always going to be at the end of the year. Josh and I talked about anything we could do to make that special, we should do, right? It's a rivalry game in-state, which not many, I was in Wisconsin for all those years. I never got to stay and play an in-state rivalry Big Ten game. So to have that here at Illinois is other than Michigan, correct, is the only place where that happens, right? That there's an in-state Big Ten. Indiana, that's right. So these are very rare moments, and one that we got to take advantage of.
Coach, last game in this building for Luke Altmaier, what's he meant for the program, and what do you think his legacy is going to be here?
Yeah. Well, I think Luke, the thing that's really, I think, even just talking to him and his mom and dad, the first time they came and dropped him off, I mean, it was cold in January, and they were like, oh my gosh, I'm dropping my boy from Mississippi right here in the middle of Illinois, and we'll see what happened. And Luke is embraced everywhere I go, including my house, right? I see Luke Altmaier gear. My wife and daughters are wearing his sweatshirts and t-shirts. He's made an impact on our community. He's a very likable. I think he's identifiable with our fan base. I've said all along, right? Like, we're going to build this program from within with Illinois players. So we have over 50 Illinois kids that'll play in this game, which means a lot, right? But even when we go to Mississippi, when we go to Florida, when we go to New Jersey, we look for Illinois type kids. And I think even though Luke is a proud young man from the state of Mississippi, I think he considers himself an Illinois player, and that's what's really fun.
But if you look back at some of the first class or the early classes
Yeah.
you've recruited, this is it for those guys. Dave,
Yeah.
Hancock, what have they meant to your building of this program?
Yeah, shoot, Dave. Meant a lot, right? Like, senior day, I actually say this, and I said it to those freshmen when they're coming in. I'm like, here's my goal. I want senior day to have everybody in tears because it happened, right? Because what they did here is they came here, changed, from a young man into a young man coming out of high school to a new environment, and became kind of a step in the direction of who they're going to become, right? I don't want everybody to be crying because it's been so bad. I want everybody crying because it's been so good. A lot was made last week that I was fortunate. I didn't even know this till I got out of the game, and I think the announcers announced it. Obviously, Bret had a layup for him, but that for me, in my 5 years, had won the most games of any coach in the first 5 years, right? That wasn't even on my radar. Well, guess what? These guys are a part of that, right? Like, that's not me. I mean, I get to be the head coach, and it's next to my name, but that's Dylan Rozak, that's Miles Scott, that's Josh Kreutz, that's Josh Geske, that's all of those guys that have just been with me through the thick and thin of it. Gabe Ackus, even though he's never redshirted, Xavier Scott, depending on what's going to happen, like these guys that are in their 4th and 5th years, they've been as much of this as anything, right? And that's what hurt Saturday, right? Like, to lose a game that is I only got 2 more left of them. Now we got 1. That's just something I just want to give these guys a memory to do something that's never been done. We've already accomplished a lot of records. I think we're 11-2 the last 2 years, right? So we're tied with the most wins in Memorial Stadium, Geese Memorial Stadium, the last in a 2-year window. So if we're able to get this one, now they're the most decorated, right? So there's all kinds of these little trinkets that are out there floating, and hopefully we get them.
This isn't a which of your kids do you love the most kind of question, but since you recruited guys like Gabe Canena, Hank Beatty, you inherited your first class. So these are the first guys you have walked through from sitting in the living room to graduating. Is there anything special to that? That's above that level?
Thank goodness, right? Like Dylan Rosiak, I didn't get to recruit him, but he's probably, just because I've coached linebackers my entire career before I became a head coach. Like, I remember walking up to Rosie 2 springs ago and saying, man, I would have loved to coach you, right? Like, when you coach a position, you fall in love with kids that play it a certain way. Same way with KO. I remember calling his high school coach, who I have a tremendous amount of respect for, and he's committed to, where was he going, Princeton? Or Penn. He was going to Penn. I'm like, hey, he didn't sign anything, right? Like, he can decommit and come to Illinois, right? And I go through these Zooms to get KO, and KO he's liquid gold, man. Like, he's a really good player. He played really good Saturday. There's another guy that getting lost in the shuffle, he played extremely well Saturday, right? Especially when Dylan went out in the second half. So, yeah, I appreciate the question. I got 2 daughters, so you can't say, you may like certain ones at certain times. I called them earlier, and my oldest was in timeout. I don't know what she did, but I just find it so rewarding to be the head coach and know that Saturday sucks, right? Because it is the last time, right? Like, we always meet and say, hey, it's the first of last. This is my last week with them that I know, right? So bowl games are good, but you fall in love with people, man. You don't get to do that very like, 2 of my best friends are at the game in Madison. They live in Madison. One's in the cabinetry business and one's in the banking business, and they're really good at their jobs. They're very, very financially rewarded for it. They're awesome at what they do, but I don't know if you can fall in love with a cabinet. I'm sure you can fall in love with clients in banking, but like what I get to do, what Josh affords me to do, what us as coaches get to do, like, as crazy as it sounds, sometimes Saturday at Wisconsin is more rewarding than a big win on the road, right? Because today you get to help them formulate their response. I made the reference earlier, like, everybody says that, it's easy to be a good captain in calm waters. It's really difficult to be one in rough waters, right? Well, we're in rough waters for a time being. We're not overall, like, this place is in such good shape compared to, like, I just think about, like, when I saw that stat about 5 years, I don't know what the win-loss record was with the 5 years prior to me being here, but I promise you it's not even close. I saw today we were tied for the 5th most wins in the Big Ten, like, with Michigan. I'm like, come on, like, anybody that's worried about where we're at or what we're doing, I get it. There's things that I got to get straightened out and corrected, but enjoy the boat you're on. Like, it's a pretty good boat right now, right? It's not taking on water, it's cutting through water, so like we'll be in good shape.
Brett, I'm sure
Same time you're saying about a senior class, next week you're going to welcome a class that you guys put a lot of work into.
Crazy.
Trying to put the finishing touches on. Like, what's this class coming up?
Yeah, I literally met with my staff yesterday because, like, so crazy thing. Like, let's just take 2 comparables, right? Let's take Oklahoma State, and then yesterday they let the Cal head coach go, right? So these are 2 teams that in the middle of, before the end of the season, decided to transition their class. Oklahoma State happened so early that those kids were put under a rule they could get in the portal immediately and start taking visits, and if they chose to get in the transfer portal, right? And after 30 days it expired. Now kids that were fired later in the year, and there's even better examples, like there was a couple of schools that got let go 3 or 4 weeks after Oklahoma State when they made that move. Those kids weren't afforded the same opportunity. The NCAA literally changed the rule in the middle of the season. So we've actually had on campus a kid that was in the portal from Oklahoma State who's, I think, in decision mode right now as we speak. And because he's a transfer student, we can literally give him a document, piece of paper, and if he says he wants to come, he can jump in right now. And now kids that were let go yesterday after Cal made their transition, those kids can't really do anything until they name their next coach, right? And so for that reason, it's unprecedented what's going on in college football. And in addition to that, there's some rules around certain high school recruitment that I think will change after this class that'll never exist again. And that's why you're seeing, like, I literally get on the social media, usually when I'm in breaks or if I'm on a Zoom call or I'm doing something where I can just, I'd rather watch what's going on social media than watch what's going on in front of me. And I'll see something of a kid decommitting from somewhere, right? And I kind of said this story last week, like these stories are always much better when you're not in it, right? All the things going on with coaching changes. Like, I would be oblivious if I didn't think that was happening right now to one of my guys, right? So the key is we're going to get done Saturday night, but then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday is going to be about, hey, what do we got to do to get ready? And I think we'll have an unprecedented class. This will probably be the most highly decorated class from the outside world. But I would say, for me personally, I think that, you know, we have in the neighborhood of 25 kids that are committed to us. I would say that there's probably, you know, 10 players in that class that, in my opinion, are difference makers. Like guys that I knew when we signed Gabe Ackus, he was going to be a good player. I had a pretty good feeling, right? Didn't know that about Xavier Scott, but it turned out we have a difference maker. I think there's a couple guys that'll walk through the building in January that might start as true freshmen. And it's not just because they're athletic, but a lot of times freshmen play because of their mental ability more than their physical ability. Like, you have to have a certain skill set mentally, obviously physically, but you have to have a certain awareness in the way that you've been built that to come in and play as a true freshman. And I think this class will have a higher number of those than any class I've ever had.
Brett, I'm sure you saw.
One more after this.
I'm sure you saw that Charlie Boland's going to get the opportunity to call the defense for the Giants. It's a dude you know and an organization you know.
Yeah.
Just wanted to get your thoughts.
Yeah,
on
no. So when we were in our second bye week, on that Friday night, I went to watch, again, a crazy world of college football. I went to watch an Ivy League game. Like, I'm a head coach at the University of Illinois going to watch an Ivy League game because they have kids that, the game I was watching, have kids that can't play next year at the school that they're at, so they're going to have to get in the portal.
Right.
So we got clearance from NCAA and all that goes into it. So I went and watched 2 Ivy League games that week.
Okay.
Well, we're like 3 hours out. We were headed. We were stopped in a couple states. We were in Pensacola, Florida. We were in New Orleans, and we flew to New York. And I knew we were flying into Teterboro, and I lived and worked for the Giants. I used to fly in and out of that Teterboro. Josh and I met at the Teterboro airport when I flew here to take the job. That's where we flew out of. So I literally said, "Hey, has anybody checked with Charlie? We got a couple hours here." And usually the Giants, you get done as an NFL team. Usually about that time we're getting done. And Charlie, so Pat Embleton's with me. He hit Charlie and. There's a place that the Giants coaching staff likes to hang out, right? So I said, hey, we got a couple hours before we got to head to the game. If he wants to grab a cup of soup, I said, let's
Sure.
get together, right? So we met Charlie, and then that weekend was when they got let go. You know, Dave Ball got let go on that Sunday, and so I had talked to Charlie. I just say, control the moment, and he and I had conversations. Love Charlie to death. Of course, I was busting his balls. He should have stayed here with me, right? And
Sure.
all that goes into it. But I have a lot of respect for Charlie. And so then, yeah, I was popping in and out of meetings this morning. I come in and my phone's ringing. And I look over and it says Charlie Boland. And I'm like, oh, like I just know when I get a phone call from someone I don't expect it. Like I usually so I picked it up and he's like, GC, you know, and I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, he goes, they just let our DC go. I'm no. I said, no, I had to say it appropriately. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, but I'm great, you know.
Right.
And he just wanted to have some thoughts for me, and I gave him some thoughts. And I like whatever those Giants have experienced. I promise those defensive players, they just got a guy that's going to believe in them, right? Like I do know he has that. Charlie is. He said a great quote to me that it's always about the players, not about the plays, right? And Charlie was really, really insightful for me when I was around him, and my guess is you'll have great success there.
Coach, you talked about
Last one here.
you talked about media and social media have maybe kind of a knee-jerk reaction to every loss and so forth. Is there an element out there that has a playoffs or bust kind of mentality, and do you think that's good for college football?
Oh shit, I think it's great. I want to be in it. Listen, I'm obviously to say that I didn't think that we had a aspirations of doing that. Like absolutely, we just didn't talk about it while it was going on. But when we lost our 4th game, I was still holding on hope when we had 3, right? So there's a real reality. Correct me when I'm wrong. Like I actually think there's a knee-jerk reaction when we win too, right? Like it's always like, come on, like we just won that game. Like it's not like we should be, you know, striking out the band and having a parade for us, right? Like so, it's a little bit both ways. But listen, we'll get there. Hey, in 5 years, what we've done, like I would rather be, you know, in contention. And last week when we were 21, I would have much rather been 11. I know we played some teams that we had beat that were like right around that range, so or one. But you got to sustain it. We haven't been able to do that. And for me, especially during the off season, I got to figure out how I can do that. Like with my roster, I think there's 3 positions in particular that I can do a lot better job of giving us depth, because if you lose them at a certain, like, you know, when we lost Xavier, we just didn't have anything that we could step into that same exact, and I got to have a 2 deep that you can feel could do that. And I think where we're at now with the financial rescue, but also people are contacting us now. Like it's absolutely crazy to me the people that are reaching out to us the last 2 or 3 weeks here about wanting to be here before they can officially do it, and I think that's a sign of respect. So listen, I get it, like everybody wants to be, but like we're gonna get there. It'll be a lot of fun when we get there.
With Xavier, you brought him up a few times. How do you, Xavier Scott, how do
Yeah.
you handle those conversations knowing he could
Yeah.
obviously make the jump, or what it would mean for him to come
First,
back?
let it breathe, right? So when he got injured, like it's just, he worked so hard to get to that point, right? So I think the younger version of myself, I would have brought him in right away and said, hey, this is what we can do to bring you back, and it would have been just muted, right? So I just let it fester, develop, breathe. During our first bye week, I brought him in. Rehab's going great. Said, hey, just so you know, we don't need to decide this now, but this is what I'd like to think about and see where it's at. And then, you know, I'm not oblivious to the fact that, you know, I have a couple underclassmen that could probably declare themselves eligible for the draft. And to address that now on Tuesday or Monday of Northwestern week just makes no sense. But now we get the month of December, and I'll let that moment happen as it plays out. So Xavier looks really good. He started moving, running on land. He won't be ready for this weekend, but there's a, you know, depending on where we're at, what we're doing, there's a chance, I think, for that. But also, maybe he doesn't play this year and asks for us to come back, or maybe he just says, I'm going to the NFL. But listen, I love Xavier Scott. Got a younger brother in the program who I love to death. Just so you know, we're going to have a lot more brother tandems coming in the future as well. So, like, I think what we've done here is told kids in Xavier's position, like Spoon, you know, maybe it wasn't extreme with Spoon, but like for sure Johnny Newton, like I think Johnny definitely improved his draft grade. There's no doubt in my mind Luke Altmaier's improved his draft grade, J.C. Davis, Melvin Priestley, Xavier Scott, I think if he was able to finish the year the way he was playing, was on task to play extremely well. So Gabe Backus has improved his draft grade. So all these guys that we've given the opportunity to come back and play with us, right, and also taking care of them has been rewarded, and I think Xavier could be another example.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate it.